It almost felt like there was still like a stigma in like my local community about being in recovery. I've always been very verbal and open about my recovery for that exact reason, to like let people know it's okay to ask for help. And, I'm always available if anyone needs anything. And I think that just gave them like the permission to like come out and just be like, hey, I'm in recovery too, and this is something that I want to be a part of. Being able to do like this and to have like virtual meetings through the Phoenix app has been awesome. And it's brought something that I'm passionate about to like a national level. It's been great. Like just making those connections with people. I think that's one of the beautiful things about like the Phoenix, fostering relationships with people that like you would have never known otherwise. But because you guys share this hard thing, you guys can now embrace that and make it something more substantial.
Stories are powerful.
Welcome to the Rise, Recover, Live podcast, brought to you by The Phoenix. This is a space where people impacted by substance use can come to share their story of strength and resilience, get open and honest, and inspire hope and build community through shared experience.
We'll be talking to people in our community on their own recovery journey and shine a light on the topic of recovery in all its forms. Maybe you'll hear some of your story in theirs.
Let's show the world that together we rise, recover, and live.
Hello, and welcome everybody to another episode of Rise, Recover, Live. We are your hosts, Bryce III, he, him pronouns.
Liz McKean, she, her pronouns.
Liz, what up? How are you feeling? How's your energy?
I am feeling good. I am a little bit sleepy today, but always energized when I get to hop on the mic with you. How is your energy today, Bryce?
I am well. I feel like there's a little bit of sleepiness too. And also, like, I'm starting to do that thing where I rebel, like, with the how's your energy being a thing that we do every episode. Like, I'm about to stop asking. I'm about to start asking, like, if you could be any animal, what would it be? Or, like, something wild. I don't like habitual patterns, Liz.
Mm-hmm.
But no,
yes, I know that about you.
I'm here. I'm excited. I got some trail mix in my belly, and I want to learn about this guy with this cool haircut on this call. Who do we have here today, Liz?
Today, we have Rory Vannais, who is a cool, sober dude with a mullet. And we're going to hear all about his chase of a unicorn, among other things. He's hailing from New Jersey, and can't wait to hear his story. Thanks for being here, Rory. How are you?
What up, Rory?
Good. Hi, Liz. What's up, Bryce? How y'all doing?
Good. If you could be any animal, what would it be?
Velociraptor.
With a mullet, would you keep the mullet?
Of course, yeah.
Gosh. Yeah. That's the cool.
Mullets just make everything streamlined, so just be faster.
I mean,
for all we know, with a mullet. Oh man.
For all we know, they had mullets.
Yeah.
Hard to say.
So, like, we had like a little meeting with the Sober Run Club like a couple weeks ago. Like me, Grant, Jamin, a bunch of other Phoenix people, and we were kicking around ideas for like a mascot. Obviously, like the Phoenix has the Falcons, so we were looking for something. And that was theirs. They were like, what's your suggestion? And I was immediately Velociraptor with a mullet. And it got shot down pretty quick. But
well, it can be your
It was
mascot
out there in the ether
I
for
feel
a little
like
bit.
if you're talking about running, like a Velociraptor is the best like animal to go with. Like, weren't they like super fast?
Or a cheetah.
A crazy cheetah.
Yeah.
Crazy cheetah.
I got my cheetah mug today, so we've already had some cheetah conversation. We're really wild America over here today. We broke the pattern, Bryce.
Yeah, no, but excited to get into this conversation around running, your relationship to it, what brought you to it, your recovery. So really just, this is an open space to really, this is like the starting pistol at a race. Like okay, go.
That explains the nerves then. That explains the nerves, because I'm always crazy nervous right before a race.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So I guess, we'll start at my sobriety. I just celebrated 5 years last week.
Nice.
I know. Pretty stoked.
How does that
about
feel?
That. It's awesome. Like, I was talking to my wife about it, and it's like things that you can't even imagine possible when you first get sober. Like when I got out of treatment for the second time, it's like all my wildest dreams are coming true. Just like being a present father to my kids, being like a supportive husband to my wife, showing up to my job, giving 100% there all the time, and like still having the ability to like chase this passion that's running, that's like come out of nowhere. It's a dream come true every single day. Like that's really just the only way I can put it. Is it's a blessing, straight up.
Do you think did running have anything to do with sobriety? Like in your kind of just opinion, sobriety sticking for you this time? Was that kind of the thing that made you the most excited about it, or was there any other difference?
No, because I didn't start running until I was already sober for like 2 years. So I had already kind of laid that foundation through fitness, granted, but not running specifically. I was really big into CrossFit before active addiction, during active addiction, and then afterwards. Like it's actually where I met my wife, was our CrossFit gym. So that was always like a big part of our lives every day. When COVID happened and shut the world down, I kind of just started exploring other ways to, get that workout fixed. Like that endorphin release for me is so important. So for like that whole year when gyms were down, I was like doing crazy workouts in front of our condo. Our neighbors thought I was crazy, like slanging a barbell on the sidewalk and doing all sorts of crazy stuff. It was during that year that I was like, all right, I'm going to try and pick like a challenge every year, something I don't like doing, and kind of run with that. So that first year, 2020, it was like, trying to think of like the number that I picked out originally, but I think it was like do like 5,000 burpees or something throughout the year. And it got like way out of hand, like really quick. Like anybody in recovery, like you pick something and then you just go like over the moon with it.
Yeah. There's no moderation, even in the healthy stuff.
No. Moderation is for cowards. It's like full sender or nothing. So like that first year, I think I ended up doing like 37,000 burpees throughout the year. Just like, it went wild.
That's awesome.
So like when January came around and I had to pick a new challenge, I was like, all right, well, that's something that I really don't like doing, but like I can put my best effort towards and like kind of get better at it and, see where it goes. And I picked running. So my initial goal was to run 500 miles in 2021. So the way that I kind of broke it down, it was like 4 miles a day or something like that. So I'd wake up every morning, I'd run my 4 miles, and I made it to like, I don't know, probably about this time in the year, like April, May, June, something like that. And my sister-in-law was like, you're running every day. Why don't you train for like a race? Like you're already running, make it worth something. I'm like, all right, cool. So I was like, I had already done like a half marathon with my wife prior a couple years ago. So I was like, well, I already checked that off the books. Let's like really throw it out there and let's train for a marathon, which was like crazy scary to me. Like even the thought of like running 26.2 miles was terrifying. So I was like, all right, let's do that. Let's see if I can do it.
Can I? And I don't want to like knock you off track. So like put a bookmark in that. But as somebody who now still like can have, I won't say trouble, but like it's still super counterintuitive for me to do things that make me uncomfortable. Like where did that like inclination to like, yo, this is something that I don't want to do, so let me like look for that? Like, do you feel like you've always been hardwired that way, or is that something that you've learned?
I think it really came with sobriety. Like anytime, I really like challenges. I like finding things that I'm either not good at or things I struggle with and like hammering down towards it until I'm good at it. And I think that comes from like getting sober. It's like beating alcohol addiction was the hardest thing I'm ever going to do in my life. So everything else is just a challenge. It's like after that point, it's like, I already did that. Like I changed my entire life. I'm sober. Like I beat addiction. What's running got on me? What's 37,000 burpees got on me? Nothing. I can do anything. I really do feel like people in recovery are like superheroes. Like you beat the hardest thing you're ever going to in your life. Everything else is just like a little obstacle.
Yeah. I 100% agree with you on the superhero aspect of recovery, because the people that I've seen and met and come to have the honor to cultivate relationship with in recovery, we're some of the most talented, capable, innovative, intuitive people that I've ever come across. And it's interesting to me to see how those things express, so to see them express in you and like continuously seeking to challenge yourself and grow in alignment with what it is that you don't want to do. I feel like I don't seek out things that I don't want to do as much versus like the things that like I have a spark for, and it's like, okay, I'm not great at this, but I want to be the best at this because I'm super competitive. But not in the like I'm about to go run the Boston Marathon competitive.
I don't know though. You might feel different. Like that Boston Marathon, like I was telling Bryce before we got on that like my dad ran it a couple times, and like once you've seen people in a marathon, that spark kind of happens. Like, I mean, it's not been sparky enough for me to actually have run 26 miles, but I can see the appeal because it's just like to see humans push themselves to that extent, and then to see humans supporting those who do. It's just like, it's just like nothing else.
Yeah, it is. It's special. And then like you just said, like Boston takes that range of emotions that like you feel during a normal marathon with like just your internal battles that you go through over the course of that marathon and everything external as well, and just magnifies it so much because of the magic that's Boston. It's like we'll get into that later, I guess, but it was unbelievable.
So cool.
That's really all I can say about it for now. But
so back to the bookmark, you was challenged. You was challenged to look into the race.
Yeah, I decided that I wanted to run a marathon. Yep.
So when she said run a race, like just for everyone to know, like there are 5Ks, there are 10Ks.
Yeah. I mean, really, you could have just been like, look, Bryce, hey, meet me at the corner of such and such. We're going to race down the street. Like,
I know.
That's a race to me. Like,
that's probably what she was referring to. She's like, hey, why don't you go run some 5Ks? And like, my immediate reaction was like, I'm going to run a marathon because I'm crazy like that.
That's amazing.
I picked the Philadelphia Marathon because obviously like that's my hometown marathon. Philly's like a half an hour away. So I had like, if it was about this time in the year, I had about 18 weeks to train for it. So I just went online and I found like a very beginner friendly marathon training plan that's going to get like any runner ready to go from like, you have like baseline fitness. It's not like you're going from couch to marathon. Like I was in relatively good shape. I just needed to know how to like build my mileage up properly so I could finish. I didn't have any like time goal. I didn't even know anything about like Boston Marathon qualifying standards, anything like that. I just wanted to run a marathon. So I kind of just did all of my training by myself. I did a 16-week plan. I really didn't have like a finish goal, anything crazy like that. A couple weeks before, this run group that I had hooked up with, it's actually my coach's wife, my now coach, but at the time he was just a friend. She was like, hey, I'm going to run Philly too. I'll pace you. And I was like, all right, great. Like, I've never done this before. That's awesome. So November, Philadelphia Marathon is always the Sunday before Thanksgiving. Sunday before Thanksgiving every year. So November 2021, I ran my first marathon. I ran it in 3:19:58, which is like, nothing crazy, but it was like respectable.
What is that mile? What is that? How many minutes per mile?
Like 7 something.
I thought so. Yeah.
I'm not good with numbers. Like if my coach was here, he would instantly tell you what it is, but I'm not that great with it. There's like this saying in like the running world, it's like when people like that, like they want to run a marathon, like get it off their bucket list or whatever. When they finish, their initial reaction was like, that was the worst thing I've ever done in my life. I'm never doing that again. I had the complete opposite reaction. I was like, this was awesome. I loved every second of this. This is who I am. It's now my entire being. It's my soul. It's everything. And that's when I like kind of sold my soul to the running devil. And it's literally just been like, it's been a whirlwind ever since. It's like I've run 3 more marathons since. I just ran Boston this past April. And then I'm currently training for 3 marathons coming up this fall. I'm running Chicago in October, New York City with the Phoenix in November, and then Philadelphia at the end of November. So it's like I went from like, hey, let's just run a marathon to running 3 marathons in the span of like 6 weeks this fall.
And there has to be like some type of reward in there for you. Like, what does this do for your well-being? I know you mentioned the endorphins that are released, but like, how else does this contribute to Rory? Like, why do you show up and do this?
I need like structure in my life. I'm one of those people that's like very routine oriented. So just like I train early in the morning because of our family dynamics. It's like the only time that I get to run. So I wake up every day at like 2:45 to 3 o'clock in the morning. I go out on my training run. I come back, I get ready for work, and then I go put in like my 8 hours as a plumber. And then after work, on my way home, I stop at our CrossFit gym where my wife still goes. I pick up the kids from her. I come home, make them dinner. My wife comes home. We spend our family time together, go to bed, repeat. So just like in like a microcosm, that routine of being able to do that every day is very helpful for my mental well-being and for like my recovery. It's like, I know what I'm doing. This is the next step. This is what I'm doing next, blah, blah, blah. But like, as far as like the reward system for marathoning, it's obviously I have a goal for every marathon. From Philadelphia to the next one, it was to qualify for Boston. I had found out, like what that entailed. And are you guys familiar? Have you know anything about the Boston Marathon or like the qualifying standards? I know you said your dad ran, Liz.
I am like lack devoid of all knowledge of the Boston Marathon. So like you can talk to us.
You're not the only one, right?
You can talk to us like, like give me the rundown.
All right. So like any other marathon, pretty much you can just sign up and you go run it, like Philadelphia. I put in my entry, I paid my entry fee, and then I showed up on race day and ran it. There's a couple lotteries, or there's a couple marathons that have lotteries where they have so many people put in for it that everyone puts their name into a hat. They select a couple, whatever the race field is, and then that's how you get into that one. Boston is one of the few where you have to qualify to run for it. So it's broken down by your sex and your age. So it's the age that you would run the Boston Marathon that year. So this past April, I was 35. So my qualifying standard, I had to run a marathon before that in 3 hours and 5 minutes, under 3 hours and 5 minutes, in order to be able to even qualify for Boston. My first attempt, which was my second marathon, was in Salisbury, Maryland. I ran a 3:05:33, so I missed my qualifier by 33 seconds. And then I went up, I guess, I don't know how close to Chicago you are, Bryce. There's a little marathon in Geneva, Illinois called Last Chance BQ. And I went up there last September and I ran a 3:04:47. So I just skirted in. But like, just because you qualify for Boston by your time standard doesn't mean that like you're automatically in. It gives you the chance to put your name into the lottery, pretty much. And then depending on how many people put in that year, they start at like the fastest times and then they work their way back. So I only had like a 18-second buffer underneath my BQ. So I was kind of like, all right, cool. I qualified, but I didn't think there was much of a chance that I was going to get in. So when I got that email from Boston a couple of weeks after I put in my application that I got in, it was like complete euphoria. It was wild. It was like such a surreal feeling. Like just because I had kind of like accepted that I wasn't going to get in, they said like this year was going to be like the return to normalcy. Like after COVID, there was going to be a full field at Boston. So they were going to go back to their buffer. And I was like, you know what? I qualified. I'm good. I'll run another marathon faster. And, it's kind of what it was. And then when I got that email, it wasn't an email that I saw I took a break from work and I looked at my phone and I had like 40 messages on Instagram saying, "Dude, you got
my
in. You're in
God.
Boston." And I was like, "What?" It was
That's
surreal. But
so cool.
I got
yeah,
a question. I think so. Like even when using terminology like chasing my unicorn, and I've since come to find out that the unicorn is the mascot of the Boston Marathon. But
yeah.
like with that terminology, chasing my unicorn in recovery and sobriety, like I found that I've set like goalposts, and it's like, okay, once this thing happens, I'll be fulfilled, or I will have hit a mark, or it says something about me, and then inevitably when I get there, it's like there's always somewhere else to go, and I think that is
hmm
maybe a remnant of. Like it can be a remnant of like my active addiction, where it's like this thing will help me to be complete and fulfilled, and like I've had to have a conversation with that, like throughout my recovery, like where am I going? Like what do I want? Like what do I think this thing is going to say about me? Has there been any of that you bumped into as you have dove into run culture and marathon culture and chasing your unicorns?
I think like at least for me personally, like having goals like that and whether I achieve them or fall short, I think that's really important for me because it keeps me driven. For an entire year, I dedicated myself to running below a 3:05 and qualifying for Boston. And, like there's obviously days when I would wake up or my alarm would go off at 3 o'clock in the morning and I'd be like, I don't feel like running in the snow today, or I'm just tired and, I got a hard day at work coming up. Like your mind's going to always be flooded with excuses of why not. And having something like concrete to be your why is important for me. So like I had put so much into wanting to run Boston and achieving it that once it happened and I got like even that notification that I got into Boston, like I hadn't even been in the city limits yet, stepped foot on the course, and I had already like achieved so much just from that. From, my sister-in-law being like, "Why don't you train for a race? I'm gonna go run the Boston frickin' marathon." And which is like the holy grail of, marathon running.
Well, and it's not like that was all you were going. Like you had, a whole lot of people were excited that you were going to the Boston Marathon. It wasn't
Yeah.
just it was like a goal that you shared, I feel like that's a big deal to have it be something you're doing not
Yeah.
entirely alone.
The running community is like so awesome. It's great. And like within that running community, there's obviously like the subsect of people in recovery. Just like anything else, like in CrossFit, and then there's like the subsect of people in recovery. And it makes it like so much more special to be able to share that with other people. Like I don't know where along the way it went, but like I'm pretty active on social media. So like when I started running, I immediately like took that passion and I started like posting about it every day on like my personal Instagram page. Like what I ran that day, what my mile splits were, stuff like that. And it got to like a certain point where I was like, my Aunt Sally doesn't care what I ran today. But there's a whole lot of people in like a running community who like are interested in this. So I created like a whole separate Instagram profile called The Running Mullet. And I just started posting on there and like I got really involved in that community. I still am. I'm more on that Instagram than my personal anymore. Like I said, like when I got that notification Boston, like that's how I found out was from all these strangers really reaching out like with like pure unfiltered, like I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it, like excitement for me, like people I've never met in my entire life, like stoked because they know how much I invested in it and like I was gonna go do it now. It's crazy. It's wild.
Also, just for the record, yes, you're active on Instagram. You're like a really good follow on Instagram. So just like total shout out to I think isn't it the Rullet, like at the Rullet? Is that how it's the
Yeah.
handle is?
Yeah, like
RULLET? Yeah. Like
yep, that's my Instagram. I do like I love it And I do have a lot of fun with it. And that's why I'm probably so active, like making the reels and doing everything kind of crazy that I do. But like, I really do get enjoyment out of it. Like, I like interacting with people. Um, it's a lot of fun, and it's just like a way to kind of break up the daily monotony of life of just like going through the motions. Like, I get to just do something completely silly and unscripted every day. Like, I find like a weird audio, and I stand in my kitchen at like 3:30 in the morning every day before I go for a run, and I just laugh hysterically, like thinking that like my wife or my kids are gonna roll downstairs and see me doing this, and I'm just like cracking up.
It's awesome.
But thank you. I appreciate you saying
Oh,
that.
heck yeah. No, they always definitely make me laugh. You know, one of what you just said, like breaking up the monotony of life, I think is so interesting because when you're looking at sobriety, you know, pre-sobriety, looking at sobriety, it can feel like, oh my God, what is this stretch of life that is ahead of me that is just going to
Hmm.
be just bland, you know, and a struggle, you know, the only like big emotion might be just a hard thing. And you know, and you get here and obviously that's a different story, but also, you know, in sobriety, you have found such peace in structure and like setting up your day in this really disciplined way, so that you can do the things that you love and be the person that you know you want to be and chase your goals and also be really present at work and really present with your family. And the thing that you chose to do as like your joy and like get endorphins and things like that is hours and hours of running. So that also, I mean, you know, looking at it from the outside can be like, cool, like that sounds like a lot of monotony, you know, but within
Yeah.
that you are finding like what like where how do you what does the joy look like in that, because I know it's there, like obviously it's there, that's why
Yeah.
people do it and that's why, you know, it's so popular in like recovery communities, but like how would you describe those long runs, like what is that like?
Yeah. So like the reason why I wake up so early is because I have training runs that are anywhere from like 8 to 15 miles before work. And like to a lot of people, like that's
Yeah.
daunting. Like before I became a marathoner, I didn't run more than 6 miles ever in my life because like why? Like why would anyone want to just do that?
That is my
It's
question,
it's
sir.
still like yeah, yeah. I don't think there's any one
Yeah.
answer that makes sense. I don't even know if there's an answer like that I can formulate into words that make sense for me. Like
Yeah.
it's it's something that I just love doing. I love the way it makes me feel. I love the results from it. I know it sounds crazy, but like I can't formulate into words my why. I just know the way it makes me feel and you know how much it does for my own recovery.
So first and foremost, what I want to say is I want to out loud admire your ability to dig in and find words for what it is that initially it's like, yo, like I don't know if I have the words for it. I just love it. There's a lot of things that I just love too. And I think in the context of a podcast, it helps us to be able to find the words to communicate to people who are listening in order to cultivate community with the people who are listening. But ultimately, like, words aren't always required to describe the things that have impacted our lives. And it seems like running these marathons has been a huge contribution to your life and your recovery. I think for me, I'm in a season right now where like there's some things that, because I've dug into like being a content creator and being the front facing thing for a lot of the stuff that I got going on. And there's times where I got to take a break to like really revisit and reflect, like, why do I care about this stuff? And I think even prioritizing that for me has been important in this season. There's people like Dave M from the Dopey podcast. Like every time I talk to him, he's always like, but did you have fun? And I think like I've dug into a lot of things that could be, you know, I follow a lot of people that teach me how to make a business out of these things and how to use these things to cultivate a community in order to, you know, put me in a different place financially and influence wise. And it's like just that reminder, like, did you have fun? Does it mean something to you? Like, do you love it? Like, are you enjoying yourself? And it's like, like, yeah, that's the priority. And I think recovery allows for us to prioritize that. And you know, so I just appreciate you, yes, digging in and figuring out the words that allow for us, the listeners, to understand why this thing is so important to you. But I can also understand why like the words wouldn't be important. And I love it is a substantial enough answer for me.
Yeah, I mean, like sometimes that is enough, but at the same time, like finding that reason, like something that I'd never even thought about, like what you just said, like, but did you have fun? But on the flip side, like spinning it around, like, why do you do what you do every day? Like, why are you putting so much investment into this thing? And like taking a second to step back and like reflect inside and kind of verbalize that through is helpful, even just for me, like to just step back and be like, all right, so like why are you waking up at 3 o'clock every morning and doing this and going crazy and going to all these races? Like, what do you actually get out of it? And just to spin that around and give myself an answer is like something you know you can get caught up on the day to day and just not even think about the bigger picture of why, how important that word is for anyone really, not just people in recovery, just having like a path to follow and seeing things
Yeah.
through.
Yeah. Also, like, for those listening, I don't know is a substantial answer too. like why do I do these? I don't know. I think there's a lot of spaces where there's people who like know your why and follow your passion. And it's just like, yeah, that's cool, but sometimes I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And like that's a part of the process. And
Mm.
so like if right now like I'm running and like I don't know why I do it, but like it's doing something, like even that internal like mechanism that lets me know like, oh, this is doing something for me. Like maybe that's enough for right now, and maybe that allows for us to have compassion enough for ourselves to just continue doing what we're doing until like that answer comes as to why it is that we do what we do.
Yeah.
But, ultimately, like I just, for me, and this is just me, but prioritize the experience, prioritize living, and the understanding will come. But now we have that, like we have that privilege to have the continuity of experience. Like I am better today because of what I did and how I shown up yesterday. Unlike in my active addiction, alcoholism, where it's like,
No
I'm the same person
intention.
from yesterday. I might not even have some of what happened yesterday in my experience because I don't even remember that shit. So yeah.
Well, and speaking of like just putting it into words and having fun and just kind of like figuring it out within your own recovery, like I feel like a way that we often do that is through community, and like that is something that you've absolutely done. I mean, it sounds like pretty early on you found that community just like locally, and just to pull Phoenix into it, I know that you've done that on a much bigger level, like nationally. We've got like the Sober Run crew where people that might never actually run side by side are now like talking about this thing that they love and how it's supporting them through recovery. And yeah, so tell us a little bit about that.
So I was very fortunate to find out about the Phoenix like very early in my recovery. I was maybe like a week or two out of rehab when a friend from the CrossFit gym approached me and was like, "Hey, have you ever heard about this organization that offers free CrossFit and fitness classes to people in recovery?" And I was like, "Nope." So him, myself, and two other guys, we immediately started digging into like how we can bring the Phoenix to our local community, to our CrossFit gym. And we did like all the volunteer training and everything. We went over to Philadelphia and we ran our CrossFit out of our gym for like 2 years. And then when COVID happened, obviously that shut it down too. I kind of got away from CrossFit. They still operate that same Phoenix crew out of that CrossFit gym. But when I stopped doing CrossFit and started diving into running, it was like, I still need to be involved in this community. How can I do that? So I approached Chris Spinella about the idea of starting like a running group through the Phoenix. And he was like, "You have my 100% support. Let me know what you need." And we just started kind of getting the ball rolling with it. I just started operating classes the normal way that we did with CrossFit. And it was like a pretty immediate success. Like, people that I had run with prior dozens of times approached me and they were like, "I'm in recovery. I have XYZ recovery. Thank you so much for doing this. Like, this is done more for me recently than anything else, just being around other people in recovery. And I really do think it gave people it's okay to admit that I'm in recovery in my community. Like it's kind of weird. Like it almost felt like there was still like a stigma in like my local community about being in recovery. And I've always been very verbal and open about my recovery. For that exact reason, to like let people know it's okay to ask for help. And, I'm always available if anyone needs anything. And I think that just gave them like the permission, maybe is the right word, to like come out and just be like, hey, I'm in recovery too. And this is something I want to be a part of. And, I've had my local running group going for like a year now. We meet pretty much bi-weekly. We pick, instead of like a CrossFit brick and mortar gym having the same class every week, same time, I wanted to make it available to as many people as possible. So like one week it'll be on Tuesday at 7, the next week it'll be on Thursday at different locations all over our area, like ice cream shops, coffee shops, parks, bridges. So that way, like if somebody's like, I work on Tuesday nights, I can't make it. I'm like, all right, well, next week it's on Wednesday and it's in your hometown. So what's your excuse? Yeah, you don't have one? Okay, I'll see you there. So I kind of went with that. It's annoying from this scheduling standpoint, but I feel like it makes it a lot more accessible for everyone to be able to get out there and like come. And it's great. And when we were all in Denver for the volunteer symposium, I met Jamin and Grant, and we started like kicking around the idea of taking like all of these individual satellite running groups and combining them into like a nationwide effort virtually, or even like having meetups at races. And it's in the past couple months it's like been growing and growing, and I couldn't be more proud to be one of the people that was at the front of the spear to get this going. And it's turned into something like beautiful, like being able to do like this and to have like virtual meetings through the Phoenix app has been awesome. And it's brought something that I'm passionate about to like a national level. It's been great, like just making those connections with people that I would have never met otherwise. I think that's one of the beautiful things about like the Phoenix, and just fostering relationships with people that like you would have never known otherwise. But because you guys share this hard thing, you guys can now embrace that and make it something more substantial.
So cool.
Yeah, it's so cool to see how different communities kind of blossom through the tools of the Phoenix, or just through the experience of recovery, and like how we're able to take communities that already exist, like a running community. Like people have been running since they've been running from saber-toothed tigers, I'm sure, right? Since they've been running
crazy
from
cheetahs,
or velociraptors with mullets. But to be able to use it in the context of building connectivity to support me in this new lifestyle that I've embraced. Like it's just dope to see that. It's just dope to see that.
Yeah, it really is.
So, before we get out of here, because we want to respect your time, we have a question for you.
Uh-oh. I didn't do it.
Are you sure? Because I have video footage that would say the contrary.
Oh, no.
No. If you could go back in time and tell anything to any iteration of Rory, what iteration of Rory would you choose, and what would you tell him?
Whew. Man, we got deep real quick.
From velociraptors to time traveling. Here we go.
I would like to say that I would go back to when I first started getting like addicted and my drinking took a turn for the worse, and kind of avoid that whole couple years of my life. But that made me who I am now. Mm-hmm. And I'm extremely proud of who I am now. And I don't think I would be who I am without those struggles. I'm sure my wife would disagree and would love to bypass that. But I would still go back to that time when I was in recovery or in rehab and just be like, it's going to be okay.
Mhm.
You're going to get through this and you're going to be a stronger, better person because of it. And just to have like that notion in my head to know 100% that like I got this would be comforting, but to still have the life experiences that I went through and that make me who I am is very important. So just like the knowledge that like you're going to be okay, but to still have all that other stuff that, makes up who I am, my DNA, my drive, all the things that I hold so dear to myself, still have those. But yeah, I would go back to me probably 2 weeks in the rehab and be like, listen, buddy, I know you're hurting, but it's going to be all right.
Awesome.
Nice.
I feel like that's so, it's, for folks who are listening, who are, in the early stages of recovery or maybe like, pre recovery or, trying and falling and trying again, like to have those words is so powerful to hear people on this side, I think, say, like, yeah, probably. I mean, if you put me back in that situation and I knew what I know now, like I probably would make some different choices. But looking back, it's not in regret. It's in gratitude for the things, those struggles that made me who I am. So like, if you are listening and you are in the struggle, like, it's molding you and, and it is going to be okay because you're first of all, you're listening to a recovery podcast. Like how badass is that? Like clearly you've got, you're working and you have community because you're hearing us. So, yeah, I think I just would second that and say, thank you for saying it.
Yeah, yeah. I also probably would go back to rehab, but they had these collard greens in there. Like I haven't had collard greens like them since. Like I would just go just to sit with him. Like, bro, let me get some of that.
Bryce gets his time machine. He gets one message for old Bryce. He's like, I'm just gonna go back and see if I can steal my lunch.
Yeah. I'm gonna need that recipe.
My favorite. Best answer. I have a follow-up question. One more question, just for folks who are out there who are hearing you talk about running and thinking, well, I would love for that to be part of my routine. I would love to maybe, someday do a race, but cannot imagine ever doing that. I've literally never, I don't even know what to start with footwear, like how would you suggest somebody get started if they wanted to start running?
So if like you're going down to like day one, I just made the decision that I want to run. I would highly recommend going to like a running store, your local running store. I am extremely fortunate to have South Jersey Running Company in my area. And this is what I did. I walked in and I said, I have no idea about anything running and I need a pair of shoes. And they fit me, like they watch you run, they see what kind of shoe you need, and you just go from there. Like once you have like the right kind of footwear based off of your gait and your stride, and it's a safety issue, injury prevention. But once you have that, then it's just let me see if I can run to that street sign, and if I can't, let me see how far I can run, and then I'll walk to that street sign. And then as soon as I get my breath back, I'll run to the next street sign. It's just about picking the next thing and going a little bit further, whether that's that run or that next day or that next week. It's just being consistent and going and going and going and putting your best foot forward, literally, and just trying. Like I said, when I started this journey, I hated running. Running was a punishment my entire life. As an athlete, if I was running, it's because I did something wrong or one of my teammates did something wrong. And I was like, well, you're an ass because now I'm running and I hate you. And now, like, I voluntarily and joyously get to go do this every day. And I consider myself very fortunate that I can. So, yeah, I would just say start small and, whether it's a mile every day or it's I want to run around my block, start small and just build up, and then you can be crazy like me and run 3 marathons.
And they could come. I mean, I know in general, Phoenix programming, like come to a class, you just come where you're at. Like, you know, if somebody wants to run, come to Run Club, like talk to people who are doing it, like soak in that inspiration, ask questions, things like that. I feel like that's the cool thing about this community.
So the Sober Run Club is on Instagram as well, under at Sober Run Club. You already gave my Instagram, but then there's the Phoenix app is where we post all of our classes. You know, I'm in South Jersey. There's Grant in New York. There's Jamin in Detroit. There's another one in Detroit. There's one in New Hampshire. I think one just started up in Denver. So it's growing. And like, even if you're already involved in the Phoenix or you're not, and you have a community in your area and you want to start it, like that's why we did this, to give people the resources to start these run clubs in their communities and start bringing all of these umbrellas back home to one uniform underneath the Phoenix. So, you know, it's by no means a closed circle. The more the merrier.
Yeah, hell yeah. I love that. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that and for being so welcoming and just for all that you do locally and beyond. And what's the next race you're running?
Next big race is Chicago. October 8th.
So way to go and run fast. And anybody who's around Chicago, go to the race and cheer Rory on.
Look for the big guy with the mullet.
Yeah. I can't miss him. Like a velociraptor, he'll be going so fast. Yeah. So thank you everybody for listening. We're always so grateful to have you here. And please subscribe. As always, it just is such a big deal to us. And also it allows you to not miss a single episode. Same with rating, reviewing, all the things that helps people who need this podcast to hear it. Share this episode with your friends who maybe have considered running, maybe who are running, maybe who you think you'd like to run with you. And connect with us. Where can they do that, my friends? Bryce?
Well, first they got to qualify. You got to send your qualifying time.
That was a good one.
And then you'll be chosen in the lottery to be able to contact Liz Ride. No, what you do is you download the Phoenix app on the Google App Store or the App Store or the Google Play Store. Then we get on there, come to the community group, the Rise, Recover, Live community group, and that's where Liz and I and Rory will be. Come holler at us. Let us know what you like about this episode, what your favorite part of this episode was, what you want to see less of, what you want to see more of in the entire show. This is our show. Come talk to us. So download that app, pop in that community group, the Rise, Recover, Live podcast community group, and come holler at us.
And when you do, we will have won the lottery because we will be better and more whole because you are part of our community. So.
Way to bring it home, Liz.
I know, I did it. Well, thanks everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Catch you later.
So now you're excited. Bryce, Liz, how do I get involved with the Phoenix? Well, my friend, it is super simple. We actually have an app. Head over to the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, or look in the show notes of this podcast, wherever you're listening to or watching this podcast, and go download the Phoenix app.
The Phoenix app makes it so easy to find classes that are near you or to access our virtual class schedule where you can hop on from the comfort of your home. You can also join our groups and have a conversation with someone from the Phoenix community from anywhere in the world. Please make sure that you join the podcast group where you can connect with Bryce and I and other listeners. Everything that you need is in the show notes. You can also head to our website at www.thephoenix.org. And maybe while you're there, you click the volunteer tab and get even more involved.